Oh my gosh. When I tell you I am so excited, so excited tonight. And of course, everything that could have possibly gone wrong for me to go live on time went wrong. And I had to literally get on with tech support to get me on live. Anyway, needless to say, we're here. And we're here. Woo! Finally. Finally. We are here. So anyway, I'm going to get started with this live. Again, I am so excited for the relaunch of Breakthrough to Your Destiny with Ayesha. This is something that I'm going to be doing every other week, actually every other Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Woo! So you'll get all things me and all things pertaining to breaking through to your destiny. So, of course, tonight's show is going to be about something that is so near and dear to my heart. But before I begin, if you know me, then you know that I have a few notes that I'm definitely going to be keeping up with. I want you to subscribe to my channel somewhere down here. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you comment. Make sure you share this live about autism awareness. And let's go. I'm excited. Okay. Can you tell? Hopefully, this live will go roughly about an hour or so, and there'll be some information regarding autism awareness and what has happened with my family over the last 17 years. And hopefully you will get some nuggets of information to help you with just having some acceptance and awareness around autism. So with that being said, again, subscribe, like, comments. I'm excited. Breakthrough to Your Destiny with Ayesha. But before I actually get into the nooks and the crannies, is that what I'm supposed to say? Nooks and crannies of all the great stuff. I wanted to give a shout out first off to several people who have been supportive of autism awareness over the years and more recently. And so I will put all of their information in the description underneath this video for sure. But let me start off with, I want to shout out my cousin. She has an Instagram page. Again, all the Instagram pages are going to be down below in the description page, in the description of this particular video. So I have a cousin. Shout out to my cousin, Whitney. Her Instagram page is Lou Connection. And she made, so this is an amazing Apple Watch. The only thing is I broke it the other day, and so I have to actually send it to her to get it fixed. So I have on an Apple Watch that she's made. This is in honor of my mom, but the one that she made from Kim and Autism Awareness is so dope, as you can see. So I just want to put that out there. Again, you'll see her information in the description. I also wanted to shout out my girl, Ayana. She's going to, all this information again, I hope I don't sound redundant, is going to be in the description. She created some shirts. I'm going to show you just one of them. This is my shirt that she created for autism awareness. There were actually some shirts that were created by Cam that have Barney on them, and then she created a design that talks about royalty and has a crown on it, but she's dope as far as like all things creative. Then there is my god brother. Shout out to my god brother Art, who made this amazing jacket that I have on. It says Cam's mom on the front, and then it actually has, excuse me, his logo on the back. So shout out to him. He's so creative. He can make sweatshirts and sweatsuits hats, jackets. This one is custom because Cam's favorite color is purple, and then of course it has who I am, Cam's mom, Cam and Curtis's mom, but just for the sake of this, Cam's mom. And then last but not least, I have some bracelets by Zakari. You have to go check her out. She is a young lady who just opened up a jewelry company online. And again, all of this information will be in the description. I basically just sent her some information and said I wanted autism awareness bracelets, and she came up with the idea. I gave her the colors. She came up with the idea, blessed and loved. And then, of course, autism awareness blue. But I only have so much I can put on my wrist on one day. So definitely want to shout out all of those people who have supported my endeavors when it comes to autism awareness. Clearly, autism awareness for me is not just in the month of April, it is all year long. And so I represent autism awareness every day, honestly. And I also have I probably should have taken it off, but I have these that I wear. It says DJ Reigns, that's my godson. And then the other side has Cam's Steadfast Love on it. And those you can get from me. Just hit me up. I'll send them to you. All right. So let's get going because I don't plan on being here too long and holding you. I just want to give you a little bit of information about autism awareness and the journey that my family has been on with living with someone with special needs, particularly autism for sure. So I'm an educator just by nature. And so you'll always get some kind of a definition, quote, or something from me for sure. Again, before I really get into it, make sure you subscribe to my channel, Ayesha Lewis. I have purple hair. I know it's not purple now. It's doing some other funky thing right now. It was purple-ish in some other colors. And you can also find me on Instagram, Ayesha Lewis. Check out my name, Ayesha Louis. And you can also find me on Facebook as well. But make sure you subscribe, comment, like this video. All right, so what is autism? I actually got this definition off of Autism Speaks website. And so autism or autism spectrum disorder, ASD, refers to a broad range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech, and nonverbal communication. According to the CDC, autism affects an estimated 1 in 44 children in the United States today. All right, Ayesha, what does that mean? That means a lot. And the other piece is because autism is a spectrum disorder. There's so many different terms that are used. Some people feel a type of way about all the various terms. I personally do not feel any way, one way or the other, regarding the different terms: ASD, spectrum, autism, any of those terms. I am definitely okay with. But anyway, so what does that mean? That means that this is not something that you catch. This is not you're bad. This is not even like specifically a behavioral situation. It's neurological, and you are born with it. Excuse me, I have my notes on my phone. So you're born with it, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the early signs of autism and what you can possibly look for just to keep an eye out on autism. So for me, I'm going to tell you my story. Let me start off by saying this. Everyone, I'm sure, has a different story. They have a different walk. They have a different journey. As for me, I'm going to tell you my perspective. I am going to give you my insight, my wisdom, what has worked for me and my little family. And I say me and my little family because it's myself and my two children, my two sons. So starting off with, I have a 17-year-old son. His name is Cameron. And then I have a 14-year-old. His name is Curtis. So Cameron is who we're talking about, and he was my first son, first child. I had a normal pregnancy, full term. The only thing that was a little different, I would say, about the actual birth was the fact that they had to pull him out with the triceps, and I had to form his little head the few days after he was born. Besides that, normal pregnancy, normal weight gain, normal cravings. You know how that goes. And so that is how my journey began. But I will say that very early on, there were certain milestones that Cam did not actually hit. And so by the time he was one, he was not talking. He, wasn't saying any words. He was walking perfectly fine, but he didn't talk very much. To be honest, he didn't really start talking until maybe about 18 months or so, which I mean, still is not technically red flags. Excuse me. So it's technically not red flags, I would say, but definitely just kind of, I was, wondering, it's my first child, like, is this typical, normal behavior, and things of that sort. So I would say really it wasn't until he was maybe 2.5, going into 3, and it was time for me to enroll him in preschool. And so I feel like when I was enrolling him in preschool and kind of seeing the other kids and their milestones that they were hitting, then I started to notice that there was something different about Cam. And so I went to the doctor and kind of talked to her about my concerns and what I thought. And so she was very much so, which I respect. I don't want to just immediately go into a diagnosis or starting to test him, give him some time, see how it works. He had a challenging time with potty training. And so I want to say typically, you boys are potty trained 2 to 3. He was like 4-ish or so when he was finally potty trained. So you can imagine, just as he's getting older, having to try to find diapers that fit him. But eventually he was potty trained. And so I remember talking to the doctor, and she told me to wait a little while before she would give me the referral to have him tested. So I want to say we waited maybe a year, which was pretty rough for him in preschool because he was actually described in preschool as a brute. He was chunkier kid, super cute, um, hazel eyes, round face, just such a cute little kid. But he was much bigger than the other kids. And then, what I would find out later was he didn't really know how to um, control himself, basically. So preschool was a bit tough. He would slam stuff, throw stuff, things of that sort. And so then finally, I went back to the doctor and I asked her if she could give me a referral to have him tested. She obliged. And so she gave me the referral. Excuse me, I need a little water. She gave me the referral. I took him in for testing. That was challenging because I'm not sure how they expect for you to test these our babies and sit down for hours and go through all these questions and play with this and move with this. It is play based, but it was challenging for him to be tested as well. So, needless to say, after the testing, they came back and said that he had autism, ADHD, and oppositional defiance disorder. What does that mean? At this point, I'm lost. Like, you just gave me a whole lot of acronyms that I've never heard of and don't understand. So again, autism, ADHD, and oppositional defiance disorder. Now, what I can say is once they explained to me what oppositional defiance disorder was, it made sense because I don't care what you would ask him. Everything was always no. Cam, you want to brush your teeth? No. Cam, you want to eat? No. That was always his first response. And it's like, you don't want to eat? You don't want to brush your teeth? No. Okay. And then after so many times of asking, he would then comply. But it was crazy because, as a young, I mean, I wasn't too young, but just as a young single mom, having all of these um, diagnosis was challenging for me, and so I really had to just jump in and figure it out, which I tend to do a lot in life. Everything, a lot of stuff I've learned through what I call on the job training. Even though I do have degrees, I have learned a lot through on the job training, and especially when it comes to parenting, we don't have a book. There's no right or wrong answer. My child is different from your child, so it may work for you. It doesn't work for me. And so then all of the fun began for sure. Once he was diagnosed, it was very interesting because it was very interesting because then I had to like figure out, all the information, what everything meant. He was at this point going to school, and so I had to learn about the special ed department, IEPs, 504s, what that meant, which one was the best thing for him, and so it began to be a little overwhelming. The other overwhelming part is that this was roughly, not roughly, but 17, 15. I mean, he was maybe about 2 or 3. So we're talking 15 years ago. And at the time, I mean, I feel like autism was a term that people use, but people really didn't understand what autism was. And so I would tend to get, oh, he's bad. He doesn't listen. Why don't you spank him? Why don't you, give him time outs? I mean, whatever type of consequences that parents feel that you're supposed to give bad kids, people would say that to me. And it was, very challenging to try to continue to explain over and over again that it's not that he's bad. This is just the way that he processes things. And so, honestly, I'm so thankful to be Cam's mom. And I'm thankful because I have been given the opportunity to be able to really educate people on what autism is, and to really kind of exude compassion and kindness, as well as love when it comes to people who have differences than we're used to. I'll just leave that there. I would say differences than we're used to. So, um, of course, with finding out that he was autistic, I then was like trying to just grab information and grab services and grab resources that I could get my hands on and try to, find information about for Cam. We went through everything from ABA to social groups to therapist and everything in between. And again, this is my family story, completely different from other people's story. The social groups really didn't work for Cam. Um, and ABA was not the most helpful for him. There were some areas that he picked up from ABA therapy that I think continue on even now in his teenage years. And the therapist. So I'm going to kind of take you through, and I'm not going to be on here too much longer. I'm just going to try to run through as much as I can. I may have to do a part two, to be honest, but I'm just going to kind of go through what what I can get through in the next 30 minutes or so. And again, if I can't get through all of it, I am not going to just continue to talk. I will just come on and do a part two for sure. So again, there are so many services out there that you can, pull from. There are groups. There's even financial support. I myself was not able to get the financial support because I have always worked, and for whatever reason, I made too much money, and so he was not approved for um, any of the financial support that's out there. So when I'm talking about financial support, I'm talking about like the SSI, SSDI, because it's based on the parents. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to get my water top on, and it's acting crazy. It's crazy. So I wasn't able to get any of that, which is fine because God continuously blessed us no matter what. Um, but those are some of the things that you can apply for. SSI, this is all through the Social Security Administration. SSDI, I believe it's a disability. Those are financial ways that they can help you. There's another thing called Regional Center. I'm from California, so I am really not sure if the Regional Center is nationwide. But I can look into that and then put that in the description as well. But in California, we have something called the Regional Center. It's amazing. They help you with respite, which, basically for parents who have children with special needs, you need a break every once in a while. And it's okay for you to take a break. I am extremely transparent and will tell you I struggled at the beginning when Kim was younger because there were some behaviors that I just was not prepared for. And then at the time, I was living with my grandmother with the boys at first. And so, of course, that's challenging because I'm trying to parent, she's trying to parent. And so it just became a struggle. And on top of the fact that of just not having the information about what autism was, it became challenging. So I did have some hard times. I did cry um, many nights, but then I also, prayed a lot. I prayed before, like when I found out I was pregnant with Kim, I prayed and basically was like, what, God, this is your child. Thank you for loaning him to me. And so, again, I'm so appreciative that God allowed me the opportunity to be his mother because it has taught me so much as a person on how to just handle people who have differences. And so, with that being said, so there are peer groups. It was again, it was a challenge toilet training because a lot of the issues um, that are like early signs. So some of the early signs. Let me go back to that. Some of the early signs that your child may, or someone that may may have autism is they rock and spin a lot. So that's like, this really fidgety, playing with their fingers, playing with their toes. They like routine and order. When the routine and order is out of place, it can cause a complete meltdown or tantrum. I don't know what the politically correct word is anymore, but complete meltdown of behaviors and things of that sort. They are obsessed with a few things. So for some kids, it's a pen. They just, continue to play with that pen. Um, or there may be a fixation to a specific character or a show. And, if they're watching that show and they are obsessed with it and it's time to go to bed and turn it off, there's, a potential for a meltdown. They play with only certain parts of the toys, not the entire toy. And they're very sensitive to smell, sound, touch. Now, the interesting thing is, I'm not sure the term, but it was so interesting when Cam was younger. They told me that he had a sensitivity to sound. And what was interesting about the sensitivity to sound is the fact that he could scream at the top of his lungs, fall out, I mean, kick and scream, hollering, throwing stuff, the whole nine, but then had the audacity to, if there was a loud noise, that would startle him. And so just trying to learn that information. A challenge for him for a while was going to church because there's the loud music, there's the drums. I mean, there's really, it's the experience of going to church, I feel, for a child with autism is overwhelming because I mean it's like a sensory overload. There's music, there's people, there's talking, there's stand up, move, sit down, tap your neighbor. It's just a whole lot. I'm talking about the black church for sure. Um, Sit still, don't move, stand up this time, pass the basket. It was just too many rules and regulations, right? And so, ask Cam's mom. Um, Let me stop there. Let me go back to the early signs, and then I'll kind of tell you my approach and what has worked for our family. Um, Another early sign is an unusual gaze or a vision where it's just like almost feels like a blank stare, for sure. As far as communication goes, they show little interest in communicating. Says no single words by 15 months or two-word phrases by 24 months. This is roughly what was happening with Cam as well. May not respond to their name being called, but will respond to other sounds like a car horn or a cat's meow. And less likely to start or continue a conversation. So those are some early signs when it comes to communication and behavior. And so Cam was definitely a child who struggled in his communication and struggled in his behaviors. Again, he seemed to have a difficult time with communicating early on. Now, the funny thing is, if you know Cam now, then you know that he's extremely intelligent and he uses words that are bigger than some people's everyday vocabulary. The interesting thing is that while that's an area of contention for a lot of kids, he managed to like really get a grasp and a handle once he did start reading, once he did really get a handle on speaking. He would Google words, find the definitions, learns how to spell them. He can literally rattle off words to this day that some people are like, oh, well, what does that mean? What did he just say? I don't know. You have to ask him because I don't know the meaning. So it's interesting that that's an area of struggle for some kids. And again, as he got older, he became an expert in words. He's like a wordsmith, to be honest. All right, so that brings us to school. And this is where I think I'm going to get through as much as I can. I'm going to stop the live roughly about an hour into it. So I've been on it for 30 minutes right now. But then again, if I don't get through everything, I will definitely do a part two, two, to get through the rest of it. So school, I'm rocking back and forth because school can be stressful for any parent and any kid um, starting off. But to have a student, excuse me, to have a child with special needs, it is even more so challenging. So I then learned about IEPs and 504s. IEPs, which are called, IEP stands for Individual Educational Plan, and a 504 plan are just accommodations, from what I know. An IEP is a more direct plan for your specific child on accommodations and goals that you, the teacher, and whoever else is on the education team for your child decide that they want to come up with. It protects them from any kind of issues that may occur. And then for my son, he had what was called a behavioral plan as well, because not only did he, struggle with the just the academics and the education, but he also struggled with his behavior. Now that brings me to my next point. Sent him to school, and I would always get phone calls about him having the hardest time sitting in his desk and sitting in his chair and sitting still, and he's running out the class. That's another thing. They call it eloping. So he would actually, he's very smart, very intelligent kid. He would kind of watch, be quiet, and then when he saw an opening, dash. I mean, at record speed, gone. My godson is like that too. I remember one time his mom went, I mean, digging at the park after him, because I mean it's almost as though it's like they're calculated, and our kids are calculated, and they're watching. Okay, everybody's playing, they're having fun, they're not paying attention to me. I'm gone, out. And so Cam will do that too. And so that brought me to, like, what do I do? I'm at work. I can't continue to come and pick him up every day, every other day, because he won't sit still. I began to talk to his doctor, and I wrestled. Again, I'm going to be very honest and transparent. I wrestled back and forth with if I was going to put him on medicine, because my concern was I did not want him to be this zombie. Like, I liked his personality, even though it was challenging at times, but I still wanted him to be him, do him, talk and be funny, and be sarcastic, and not be a zombie. So I did talk to his doctor extensively for a while about different types of medication that would help him. My reason for actually putting him on medicine when he was younger was strictly for him at school. I tried to explain to them, like, there's a way for him not to have his medicine on the weekend, then I'd be fine with that. But of course, that doesn't really work, because if you have him on the medicine during the week and then take him off on the weekend, it's like it's not consistent. And so we decided to put him on the medicine and then give him breaks in the summer. But then I started putting him in summer camps. So he was on medicine for years. We started off with the lowest dose. Again, I'm not that mom who's trying to like drug my kid up. So start him at the lowest dose. If it doesn't work, we'll bump him up. And then once we find a good dose, then we'll be fine. And honestly, for the amount of years that he was on the medicine that he was on, he was not nearly at the highest level. Like, it was, right above the low level uh, of medicine for him. But it was really to help him focus, and to help him, as well as the teaching staff to not have to chase him down all the time, to try to keep him more focused in his seeds, able to, follow directions, things of that sort. Well, once we found the right medicine, then Cam actually had in his IEP that he was to have a one-to-one aid. And this is when, actually, let me back up. Because whenever I talk about my son and autism awareness, I always, always, always mention two people who have been near and dear to my heart. So the first person was, her name is Teacher Crystal. And Teacher Crystal, we met when Cam was in preschool. And at first, he was going to a regular smuggler, regular Head Start preschool. She was the teacher that he was assigned to, and from us, having the different meetings, trying to like be really supportive of him and his experience at Head Start, her and I became, pretty close as far as what would be best for him. And I must say, excuse me, that my children have been extremely blessed over the years. That a part of my prayer has been when they go to school, that the teachers and the staff are extensions of me, their family. And I kid you not, all of their teachers have literally been extensions of family. Like they're loving, they're supportive, they are long suffering, they have just stuck in there with them, haven't just thrown them away. And that's for both of my children, not just Cam, but Curtis as well. So I have been so thankful and grateful to God for that. So back to Crystal. So she was like in there with me trying to figure it out. Finally, I want to say he was sent to a school that had students that were autistic. And so he left that particular school. The interesting thing about it is this, and Crystal told me this years later, she ended up becoming a special ed teacher because of her experience with Cam. And I haven't talked to her. Shout out to Crystal. I don't know if she's going to see this live or not, but I haven't talked to her in maybe a year or so. The pandemic has been kind of crazy, but we have still continued to have a relationship after that. And so I'm so appreciative and thankful that, even as challenging as it was for him, I'm sure, to be in that classroom with those kids, that inspired her and encouraged her to go back to school and become a special ed teacher. So shout out to Crystal. Now, fast forward, he is in elementary school. And by the time he gets to elementary school, it's a bit tough for him to navigate school on his own. And so in his IEP, it's listed that he gets a one-to-one aid. Now, this is always tricky, right? And hopefully you guys are getting some information about like what your rights are as parents. I don't even know if I even spoke about that. If you feel that your child needs any kind of accommodations, you have a right as a parent to request to have the school evaluate your child. You have to turn in all these documents. Of course, they do all their battery of tests. And then once they do their battery of tests, then they qualify your child for whatever services. So Cam qualified under autism spectrum disorder and ADHD and oppositional defiance disorder. So we're moving through, but it's a challenge. And so in order for him to be successful, they felt that a one-to-one aid would be the best for him to help redirect him, give him positive reinforcements while he was in class, not necessarily hovering over him, but just, making sure that he stays on track. Insert one of my most favorite people in the world. His name is Sean. Sometimes when I talk about Sean, he makes my eyes, if somebody's cutting onions around here or something like that. I don't know. I think they're cutting onions. But we met Sean when Cam was having a really rough time in school. Like, I mean, just think about it. It makes me tear up, to be honest. And so I felt like, a lot of people had just kind of like given up on the fact that my son would be able to just manage being in class. So that's another piece. Once he goes to school, then there's a level of inclusiveness. So can he be in the general ed classes? Does he need to be in a what's called a special day class? Does he need to pull in and out of the general ed classes? And so throughout the years, I was adamant. I didn't care if he fell out, ran out, climbed up walls. I was just that mom who was like, I don't want him to always be in a special day class. I want you to push in, push out, and find ways for him to be in the general setting. Cam could care less about social anything. He's not a social butterfly whatsoever. I am. And a mother who is a social butterfly with a child who is not, and the complete opposite, is trouble, to say the least. Um, and it was tough sometimes because parties and just everything would be a lot for him to handle. So anyway, needless to say, school was tough. People were like, I don't know, you may have to find an alternative setting for him. And so he ended up with this amazing, amazing, amazing aide. His name is Sean. Sean is now family, to be honest, because we even tried to get Sean to matriculate with him to middle school. Like it was a whole situation, to be honest, with Sean and everything. But of course, it's all those issues that you have to go through when it comes to education and the bureaucracy of all that. So, needless to say, Sean became his aide, and literally, Sean was like, "It's gonna be me and him. Like, I don't care what happens. I'm just rocking with him, and I'm going to like help him through this." And Sean was a major, major, major reason why I think Cam has been somewhat successful in school, because he kind of took that um, that stigma that people had kind of put on him and was like, I'm just going whatever. Like if he want to run, we're gonna run. If you want to go outside, we're going outside. Like if he wants to walk, we're gonna walk. But we'll then come back and do the work. And so honestly, Sean is an extension of me because as a parent, that's how I am. It's I did kind of force Cam a lot to go places with us and do things that he could care less about doing, but also understanding to like be able to get on his level. That it's not him trying to fit in; it's really me trying to fit into his world, because his world is this amazing circle that's just going and going and going. And I live in a box with rules and regulations and all this so crazy stuff that Cam does not live in that box whatsoever. And so Sean was just such an amazing, amazing person. He's still in special education. So I can imagine the type of impact that he has on anyone that he works with. But great, great, great guy. And so he actually matriculated with Cam all the way through until he graduated from elementary school. Cam stayed in a special day class. He will push in and out of a few classes, and then Sean would just kind of help him with his work and making sure that he hit certain milestones. I do remember somewhere in elementary school, Cam didn't really care for writing and all that old other stuff. He knows how to write. He knows how to read. He he's high functioning, so he walks, talks, dresses himself, brushes his teeth, all that great stuff. And in fact, sometimes he talks too much, over and over again. He talks a lot for sure now, but in his own circle of his world. And so he, I just lost my train of thought. Dang, I lost my train of thought. He matriculated through elementary school with him, and then I really tried to beg them to let Sean go to middle school with him, but based on some kind of union, he couldn't go. Ooh, I have about a little under 15 minutes left. And I feel like middle school was the game changer for us, for sure. So what had happened was Cam had been in a special day class his entire elementary experience. With a special day class, it's an isolated class for students on the autism spectrum, and it's their own little protected space. Well, the school district that he was in did not have special day classes for middle school. What they had was called a resource classroom. And so he was scheduled to go to the resource class in the morning and then go to classes throughout the day and, check into the resource, check in with the resource teacher periodically throughout the day. Now, the game changer was this. He went from, again, the special day class to a full on middle school with 7 classes. And I could not understand exactly how was my son going to be able to navigate through all of this chaos, to say the least. So the plan was that he would leave classes 5 minutes early so that he wouldn't be in the midst of all the commotion in the hallways, because that would cause a lot of issues. I mean, he's a bumper, and when it comes to a lot of kids on the spectrum, they are sensory type of kids, so bumping is a big thing. And of course, it's middle school, so they're just moving and shaking, and nobody could care less, um, to be honest. But it just was frightening for me to have to understand how my baby was going to manage all this. So 6th grade was rough ish, for sure. He was, again, trying to manage it. Even with the school that he went to, they kind of kept the 6th graders separate. But he was, just trying to figure it out. Now, 7th grade was the game changer for him. 7th grade, Cam could literally go to, now the other thing is he had an impeccable memory and still does. He literally could navigate back and forth. He definitely had an aide, but he could get back and forth to all of his classes throughout the day. I mean, we are making strides. Like, we are doing it. He's back and forth to class, doing his thing. Not doing too much work, but a little work here, a little work there. Um, what always helped him was he early on loved iPads. Now, the funny thing is, I just remember my thought. Let me go back to elementary school. He did not like writing a lot. And so they found a way for him to do his work by PowerPoints. So when I tell you that boy mastered PowerPoints, I had stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of papers of PowerPoints, stories of him typing. He would do all of his work via PowerPoints. So that was something that I wanted to make sure that I brought up. That was an accommodation that he had in his IEP in order to turn his work was through PowerPoints. He would get on the computer and, I mean, literally craft out 20 slides of a PowerPoint. All right, so fast forward back to middle school. So he's navigating, going through all this. And, throughout the years, he would do a lot of stuff on his iPad. And so the reinforcement, the positive reinforcements that I think he took from ABA was for him to, do so much work, and then he couldn't play on his iPad at the time. So he tends to be very obsessed with Sesame Street, Barney, the Muppets and the Hoops. Who are the Hoops? He found some characters very similar to they might be the cousins of Sesame Street, who are in Great Britain. So you can imagine the type of hassle we had trying to find the Hoops. Um, it was a hassle, but my sister managed to find the Hoops and sent all these plushed Hoops for him, because that's the other thing. He loves plush dolls. So I mean, he literally has buckets of Sesame Street, um, Lion King. Elmo's a part of Sesame Street, right? Barney's, Muppets, the whole set. It's kind of interesting, to be honest. Um, but now he just likes to look at them. He doesn't even play with them anymore. So I'm going to create some kind of a wall of plushes for him. Hoops. He has all the hoops, um, because I'm that mom, and I definitely have a sister who's that aunt who, we once we find out what the kids love, it's all in. Like it's up from there. So he has it all. Like you just can't buy, Elmo. You have to buy Elmo, Big Bird, and Sesame Street. Yeah, Elmo, Big Bird, Oscar, Telly, you name it. So, anyways, so yes, middle school was very, 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 very interesting. And as I'm looking at the time, I think I'm going to definitely have to do a part two, because high school was again a challenge. And it's going to take some time to actually talk about the experience we had in high school and candid, where Cam landed. I want to say Cam and landed at the same time. So where Cam landed um, after my experience with high school. So what I will finish this particular live with is this. So he got to high school, he was doing really well, seventh grade year, and then all of a sudden, his eighth grade year, there was a shift, and the shift was like really disturbing for me, because he was doing so well. He was able to go back and forth to his classes. He had an aide, but I mean, he would like run in front of the aide to get to the classes and things of that sort. I felt like we were making some headway. And eighth grade year, I was not prepared. I'm not even sure Cam was prepared for anxiety. Now, I'd heard people talk about anxiety. Um, I had never experienced it myself. And then to have a child with autism and anxiety was very hard. Um, and it even got to the point where his anxiety was provoked by going to school. So he would get on the bus and like have panic attacks as he was getting closer to the school. Um, and at first, it's again, this is like on the job training. So it's a trial and error. You don't really know what's going on. You're trying to figure it out. It's challenging for them to communicate a lot of times. It was challenging for him to communicate what was going on. But he would be completely triggered by going to the school. And so I was like, well, how does this work? Like, how do you go from, being able to navigate the school to now the school's a trigger? Like you pulling up to the school is causing full on anxiety. Like they would have to kind of pull him off the bus, or wait for everyone to get off the bus first and then convince him to get off. Once he got off the bus, then it was just anxiety provoking. So the eighth grade year for him in middle school was extremely hard. He went to the most isolated place ever, as far as school goes. He was no longer in the resource classroom. He actually was in a portable at the school with two aides because his anxiety would cause him to have full on tantrums. And at this point, he's in eighth grade, so he's not a little kid anymore. He's a big kid throwing his body weight around. Um, and as a parent, it was extremely frustrating, extremely heartbreaking that my son would have to have two aides, not one. It was bad enough he had to, have an adult. And I kept explaining to him that's not life. You're not going to always have an adult with you walking around, making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do. You have got to figure out ways to regulate yourself and to navigate this world, and do it without someone over your shoulder. Because I'm not going to stand over your shoulder and make sure you do this and make sure you do that and make it all day, every day. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. I mean, you're my son. I love you, but it's not going to work. So, with that being said, um, yeah, eighth grade year was very challenging, and so then there was also the conversation around transitioning to high school and what that would look like. Now, the high school did not have a special day class either, if I'm not mistaken. And then in the midst of that, I forgot that part. I had to bring in an attorney at one point because even though I was not an expert in this, I knew what it was that my son was supposed to be getting as far as services and things of that sort. And so when I called the district out on the fact that he was not getting the services that he needed, they began to have a back and forth with me. And so I then did some research and found out that there are education lawyers who will take on your case and work and fight for your children. And so that's what I did. I found an education lawyer and we went in there and then, skipped an area of his accommodations. And once we were done with him, he had extra time, extra this, extra services, and all that great stuff. Sometimes you just have to bring in a little bit of extra support to get what you need. Um, so, needless to say, that happened as well. So, when it was time for him to transition out of middle school into high school, I was not in the best space as far as feeling as though, my son would be best cared for in the high school setting, because there was such a stark transition from seventh grade to eighth grade year. And it was as though, like, none of us knew what to do. Like, we just were oblivious. Thankfully, for me, again, I'm a praying person. And I remember just being so frustrated and trying to figure out how can I help my son? How can I support him? And so I had to literally like figure out what's the next moves for him. And it will be, he needs to see a therapist or something because anxiety, like, what is his anxiety is through the roof, and he's not able to really communicate like he possibly could. And so I had to then wait for for him to have a therapist. But then once he did, it was the best thing ever. Shout out to Blanca, um, because she literally came on his caseload when he was in the eighth grade. And just a few months ago, we stopped working with Blanca. And so you can imagine the type of relationship that she built with him through those years. So, with that being said, I feel like I've said a lot, given you a lot of information. I have gotten you all the way through to middle school and the onset of Cam starting high school. It's been an hour. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look over the live myself again and then see certain information that I think that I want to share with you and do a part two, if that's okay with you. Um, I have a definition for ABA and what that means and what that looks like. But again, it was not the most beneficial for my family and my son. And then in the next live, what I'm going to talk about is kind of my approach, like my parenting, and what I'm laughing because as I think it through, a lot of times I think about the type of stress I put Cam under, being his mom. And then once he had a little brother, I think that was even more stressful because his younger brother is an athlete. And so you can only imagine the type of, and I mean, I'm talking three sports athlete. Um, and with me having let me say this, I have an amazing support system, but I would not allow Cam to be around everyone. So there are not many people who can say that they've watched him, um, simply because of his behaviors, um, and the unpredictability of them. I would just take him everywhere I went, and I mean everywhere. So when his brother started running track, playing basketball, playing football, Cam was right there at the games. So the next live, I'll kind of talk to you about the different things that traveling with him, the different things that have helped him be able to navigate this world a little bit smoother, a little bit easier, and also help me navigate with him, going to restaurants, traveling, going to sporting events for his brother. And then also, I am going to talk about high school, that experience. He's still in high school. So that'll be the end of school for now when I talk about that. And then I will even also talk about the fact that he has transitioned off of his medicine, and what life looks like for him now. And the next live, I will discuss, how do you, as parents, as friends, as family members, as villages, as support systems, interact with children who have autism, and what you can teach your children as far as when it comes to interacting. What's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what is helpful. And I'm going to tell you my story where I had to get on a school bus one day, and it got real funky, real fast, real quick. People were almost at the school behind my kid because they come see about Cam and Kurt, for real. Because we don't bother anybody. We don't we try to be as loving and open minded and compassionate people. Even though my youngest son has has been his brother, I tend to teach him to be very compassionate and very open to people with differences. And so I will definitely tell you the story about how I came in contact with someone who was not acting like that and how that turned out. So this is just water, FYI. Um, Before I go, make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment, make sure you like. Ask me any questions, make any comments. I'd love to hear back from you all if this was helpful. Um, and I will definitely look at my schedule and see when I'm going to do part two. Part two. Again, subscribe, like, and share. Above all things, I love you guys. And thank you so much. I'm so excited to be relaunching Breakthrough to Your Destiny with Ayesha. This is only the beginning. This is Autism Awareness Month, but I'm going to be tackling all types of topics, from education to divorce to epilepsy to writing, education, you name it. We will be talking about it right here with Breakthrough to Your Destiny. Anything that has to do with breaking through to your destiny, which could be literally anything: forgiveness, love, um, growth, healing, all things destiny. So, with that being said, subscribe, like, share, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.